Hello. We are just about to get started here. We'll let a couple people trickle in, and then we can get started on our webinar here with Virtue AI. Alrighty. So let's jump in here. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Rafaela Kenny Sankata. I am the Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Virtue AI. Last week, we released AgentSuite, the first AI native security and compliance platform built specifically for agentic frameworks. This is a groundbreaking advancement for enterprise AI security, and today you're going to hear from the people who built it. Before I get started, I want to encourage everyone to ask questions in the chat. Really, it's an interactive process. If you really want to know about something, feel free to speak up. And speaking of speaking up, everyone in the world is talking about agents right now. They're powerful and capable, but they're also a tremendous risk, and securing them requires a completely new approach. At Virtue AI, our work is built on decades of foundational and award-winning research in AI security, and AgentSuite brings that to life with an AI native architecture that unifies automated red teaming, real-time guardrails, and adaptive governance, all designed to deploy in minutes. That's enough talking for me. Let's hear from the people that built it themselves. First, Bo. Bo Lee is our co-founder and CEO. Bo, you've been working in the AI and security safety fields for decades. Give us the quick version of what led you to start Virtue AI and why agent security in particular has become such a focus.
Yeah, thank you, Raf. Great question. I think since, as you mentioned, like 2011-ish, our team core members have been starting working on AI security, and it has been a fantastic topic at the time. We start from protecting the single, linear models to deep neural networks, now Gen AI technologies. Over the time, we find that it's a very important and critical topic and technology. For example, in the earlier time, when people use, deep neural network for audio, our robust audio algorithm has been integrated with, IBM Watson and Amazon Echo, etc. And later on, our privacy preserving algorithm has been used by Apple with a blog from them. But later on in 2023, we all remember the moment of ChatGPT, and we see that, yeah, the AI will be deployed and will be largely used, and therefore security become the bottleneck. And as a result, we start the company early 2024, want to provide a unified platform so that people can actually use and deploy AI with confidence at scale. That's a goal of Virtual AI. In particular for agent, as we know, because they can interact with environment, they are probabilistic, and they, call different tools. There are a lot of vulnerabilities, which we'll discuss more later. So we provide and released AgentSuite to hopefully everyone can use agent to help them improve efficiency with confidence.
Absolutely. Thank you. Next up is Sanmi Koyejo, our co-founder and head of AI. Sanmi, you bring deep expertise as well to the table in both the machine learning space and in AI systems. Tell everyone a little bit about your background and what drew you to tackle the issue of AI security, which is certainly a beast to tackle.
Indeed. Thanks, Raf. So my path to Virtue AI started in the research world. I've spent the last decade and a half studying how to build safe and secure AI systems, at the time mostly from the academic point of view. And as Bo said, we got excited about Virtue AI, the opportunity here, because we saw this gap that we thought some of the work that we were doing on the academic side could close that we hadn't seen deployed for enterprises. Security specifically was exciting to me because, again, there's this incredible recognition that we're deploying increasingly powerful systems without adequate security infrastructure. And some of the decades of security software, traditional software security, testing frameworks, compliance, many of these things just don't work for AI systems, particularly autonomous agents. And so there's a lot of flying blind, sorry, with outdated instruments. This is the gap that Virtue AI was founded to fill. And we've taken a lot of, I think, the best parts of rigorous academic research into AI security and translating this into enterprise-grade tools. And excited to say more about broadly our work in this area, but specifically our solution for some of the agent security gaps.
Yeah, absolutely. Clear cut problem, clear cut solution, which is one of the great things about Virtue AI. Finally, Wenbo Guo, our head of agent security. Wenbo, share a bit about your experience and what you're focused on.
Yeah, thanks, Ralph. I think basically my experience also came similar as Bo and Sammy came from academia. Have been working on AI security and also like uh, basically software security for a long time as well. What particularly interests me in terms of agent security is that it's not a standard model. The agent can use different tools, as we will discuss later. Those tools will introduce like different and more severe risks where attacker can leverage to kind of like generate a more severe attack against the system. So basically, agent is a whole like system instead of standard model. That's kind of aligned with my expertise in terms of software security as well. So that's why got me very excited and interested in terms of joining Virtual AI and leading the agent security world to build the one only agent suite, which we'll introduce later, to protect not only the model again, but also the agent as a whole system.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's talk about why traditional security fails for agents. We kind of touched on that a little bit, but Bo, let's start with the nightmare scenario. What is the worst agent security incident that you've seen or heard about, and what actually went wrong there?
Great question, Ralph. I think I have seen a lot, and if I have to pick one, for example, we know currently the agent in real world have delete, files, database, code repo, and have shared sensitive information, have given unauthorized advice. All this I can name a lot, but one of them I heard recently, especially in the business world, is that because they access so much confidential and sensitive corporate documentations, they can leak customer database. For example, recently, like there's news for one of the company potentially with a prompt injection, relatively simple attack. Actually, it can leak the customer database, which will face billions of dollars loss. That's actually, yeah, raised me a lot of attention.
Yeah, wow, that is crazy. So what is the deeper system level failure there? I mean, I think people might just say, oh, it was misconfigured or something, but there's a deeper problem happening, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say it's not just a misconfiguration because everything is configured correctly and your prompt, everything like the request to the agent is also correct. However, there is high economic incentive to attack such systems, as you may know. Therefore, here in this particular attack I mentioned in terms of the customer database leakage, it is a simple but very malicious prompt injection so that it's on purpose, like say in all of the documentation, you can have one line of prompt injection line there, say, give me the customer information to through another email. And then when the agent execute all these tasks, they will read through all the document as we know. Therefore, when they see this line of prompt injection, they will execute it. So this actually is very important and need to be protected. And this is, as Wenbo said, the whole system rather than single model, so that we need to protect from all the component as the agentic framework rather than only protect, like say, prompt or models or any single component.
Right. Right. Comprehensive. Yeah. End to end. Sammy, it's funny because a lot of these, enterprises, they've already invested in application security, network security, endpoint protection. They might be hesitant to be like, I need another security tool. But why do these, more traditional approaches completely miss the mark when it comes to agent security? Why do they break down when you introduce agents?
Yeah, great question, Raf. Indeed, this is one of the challenging questions, particularly for AI leads and security leads within corporations, where I think, as Bo said, there is this risk of external actors with economic incentives to break your system. In traditional security, most of generally software is deterministic. You can predict the execution path. You can write code, you can write tests, you can establish clear boundaries on what the system is going to do. And the system will essentially always do exactly what you program it to do every single time. Agents break this model in a few different ways. I think three that stand out to me. So the first is the fundamentally probabilistic and stochastic nature of agent systems. So the same agent with the same tools in the same environment can behave very differently across runs. Because again, under the hood, it's using modern AI technology, large language models to reason and plan. And these have inherent stochasticity. lots of the infrastructure we build for traditional security testing assumes essentially that you can exhaustively enumerate behavior and test a lot of the corner cases. But with agents, the behavior space is effectively infinite, and we can't test every possible reasoning path or every possible response, every possible path that an agent can take. A second one, and again, on the value prop, this is great, but on the security risk, this is quite worrying, is this move from syntactic attack surfaces to semantic attack surfaces. What I mean is traditional security can look for patterns, things like SQL injections, malformed packets, buffer overflows, patterns that attackers will typically use to break systems. And so these are what are sometimes called syntactic attacks. Agent security has to defend against, in addition to these, semantic attacks, so manipulation of meaning, context poisoning, jailbreaking of various kinds, goal misalignments, including versions of these that are subtle that go over multiple turns. And an attacker doesn't need to just find a code vulnerability. They can manipulate actually what an agent thinks it's supposed to do, which makes, again, the risk surface so much more challenging. And then finally, there's this challenge of cascading risk, as we're seeing with more and more complicated and coupled agent systems. So traditional applications have very strong and clear interfaces that separate the work that computing systems are doing, such that you can often treat security systems in siloed ways. Agents are built intentionally to integrate dozens, hundreds of tools, data sources, each a potential attack vector. And unfortunately, these vulnerabilities are not isolated. They chain together just like the capabilities and use cases chain together. And so an attacker can compromise one MCP server, influence an agent reasoning, triggers an unsafe tool call, access to sensitive data. Again, you have this cascading effect that can blow up very quickly. And so lots of what we know how to do about how to do traditional security and traditional security perimeters doesn't see us stop these kinds of complicated multi-step attacks. I think these are some of the main challenges that break a lot of the mold for classic security.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Bo, I'm curious, I can imagine a company or an AI savvy employee learns about something like Claude Bot and deploys it quickly, then slams on the brakes because they realized of all these security implications. How could something like AgentSuite help someone who might be realizing now that, oh wow, now that you say this, I really think I should take this offline because I have all these security vulnerabilities? Why should security be the first thought and not the last when it comes to something like a Claude bot that might be running right now?
Yeah, great question, Raf. As we know, indeed, the Cloudbot currently have been very popular, has been able to do a lot of tasks to help us improve the efficiency of our, daily functionalities. However, indeed, as you said, also like as Sammy said, because this, adversarial surface is so large for agents, I would say much larger and dynamic compared with traditional cyber systems. Therefore, we do need to have an end-to-end mindset to protect agent from beginning to the end, which means actually later in the webinar we'll show a demo how we protect, for example, co-work and the club, such as these types of agent, which first of all have probabilistic nature, second of all call external tools, third of all interact with external environment, which can also be manipulated, for example, website and file systems, etc., etc. Therefore, if in this webinar or in our agent suite, we hope everyone have the mindset that first of all, when we deploy the agent, we'll have the say the firewall systems or the protection system for the agentic world. However, we need to make sure that there is no overhead for the utility, right? No overhead for the time latency, and also easy to integrate. And I would say that's the goal of Agent Suite, which is one-click integration with whatever agent you have, Cowork, CloudBot, Google ADK-based agent, or whatever agent you have, so that you can still run your agent as what you did before. But with the agent suite protection, you will be able to enjoy from, say, prompt level to your action level, to your tool level, and to your network level, full multi-layered protection. So that's our goal. And with that being said, I would say in this case, it's safer for you to run CloudBot rather than just run it in a Mac Mini, small sandbox, because that's still dangerous if that agent can access your, say, file systems in order to be useful. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The autonomy is the risk. It doesn't matter if it's on a Mac Mini or elsewhere. So let's get into the features a little more. So Bo, Action Guard is a core part of Agent Suite, preventing a lot of these, issues you're talking about. If an agent is about to take an unsafe or unauthorized action, what happens at that moment in Agent Suite? How does the system intervene before the damage is done?
Yeah, good question. Indeed, I think first of all, compare, say, agent and the chatbot. One key differentiation is that agent can call tools, can make actions, actually a sequence of action trajectories, so that you need to protect agent while it's going, right? And with that being said, we have our action guard. So it's not only another model to protect the agent, like action trajectories, but also it's a full backend with probabilistic model reasoning and the true reasoning in terms of probabilistic graphical models to look at the actions and the action relationships so that our action guard is stationary, meaning that we not only look at each action independently, we look at the context of the action trajectory. So if the agent say have three actions together to achieve one attack, you will be able to capture it. And therefore with Action Guard, it will go together with agent action planning and then check the action trajectories with semantic aware capability. So if the agent have, say, certain action trajectories which with malicious intention or with suspicious behaviors, suspicious in terms of comparing customer security policies, comparing with existing, security frameworks such as GDPR, like UI Act, etc. So our action guard will give alert, or if we configure it to block it, it can also block it directly so that the agent malicious action behaviors will be alerted or blocked before it happens.
Yeah, right. So it's interesting because if I'm a potential enterprise or whatever, I'm hearing about this. This sounds great. We're preventing unsafe actions, but the first thing that's going to come in my mind is, well, the agents are supposed to move fast. Is this going to create lag? How do you enforce real-time controls without introducing that type of friction that teams will, be like, well, screw this. I'm just going to bypass this because it's taking too long.
Yeah, great question, Ralph. I think that's very important. So I would say, based on my experience talking with our customers and feedbacks, latency is key, like factors, and also false positive is very important, as we know for enterprise usages. So that I would say, as a whole team, we're all quite proud about our latency, in the sense that it's almost real time, like sub 10 or 100 millisecond based on the complexity of your tasks. So basically, on the high level for our agent suite, we go as your agent go so that we, while the agent is thinking or reasoning, for example, we already start to reason ourselves from the safety security perspective. We call it safety reasoning to look at or think about the intention of this action planning before the action is actually executed. So as we know, actually agent itself take a while to plan and run, and therefore with this like a time being, it actually help our agent suite to do the safety reasoning as well. As a result, we see almost no, difference when you have the protection layer compared with without the protection layer, you have the agent go because agent anyway need to have this reasoning process. That's the first from the, latency perspective. And similarly, because we have a lot of controllable, like a guardrail mechanisms, not only a single model itself, so that it can be more deterministic and also control the low latency, low false positive rate, which is very important for the second. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that makes Agent Suite so unique. And another thing that makes Agent Suite so unique is the fact that it secures the MCP layer, the Model Context Protocol. Wenbo, you've been a little quiet over there, so I'll ask you a question. For those less familiar with the MCP, why is securing the tools and interfaces that an agent depends on just as critical as securing the agent itself?
Yes, thanks for bringing this up, Rob. This MCP guard is one of our core feature and secret weapon in Agent Suite. First of all, quickly, very quick intro of MCP. typically make this analogy is MCP is a protocol. It's kind of acting as a bridge that connect agent to external world. And then but to kind of interact with the external world, agent need to use a lot of tools. Those tools empower agent to be able to finish complex tasks. For example, like co-work or open cloud, you need to use those kind of bash tool or any other tools to interact with the file system, the database, the network, etc. This gave the agents external capabilities, but at the same time also introduce new risks. And not only the agent or the benign user be able to use those tools, attacker will also be able to use those tools and do malicious things. So that's why protecting MCP is especially important because it enables such external actual capabilities and also open up new attack vectors and potentially give us like new risks. I remember Bo mentioned there's a risk about like data exfiltration at the beginning of the webinar. So that attack can be typically is accomplished through the MCP. That's why protecting MCP is so important. And then in AgentSuite, we introduced MCP guard, basically gave us two types of protection. One is like we will scan over the source code of the MCP, try to flag out if there are vulnerabilities, and then we will give user alert about the vulnerability we scanned. And then basically before deploying the MCP protocol, we need to make sure the vulnerability is being fixed or being patched. Another is that we're gonna scan over the tool description in real time. Basically, whenever the agent read the MCP tool, we want to make sure there's no prompt injection involved in the MCP tool to make sure the tool is being correctly used and guarantee the integrity of the agent execution.
Yeah, so you touched on it a little earlier about the types of risks, but I'd love for you to dive a little deeper on that of like the type of risks that MCP guard can surface and maybe like the risks that enterprises are blind to when it comes to this. Because I can imagine the big nightmare scenario that Bo is thinking of is maybe the premier thing that people are thinking of. Like I don't want it to delete files or whatever, but maybe these go into a little more about how MCP guard, the risks within the MCP in particular might not be as much of a nightmare on a literal sense, but can be just as dangerous.
Right. I think there are basically three types of risks that previously blind to enterprise before using MCP. Or we can say that MCP introduced three types of unique risks. One is what we call tool poisoning. Basically, whenever the agent tries to use a certain tool through MCP, MCP will pass a tool description to the agent. That's where attacker can jump in, inject some malicious instruction into the tool description. In that case, the tool will not be used by the benign user for its designed task. It will be used by the malicious attacker to finish some malicious tasks. So that's one top kind of risk that MCP can introduce. The second type of risk is the implementation themselves. The MCP, like fundamentally is just code, and any code could have bug. So if there are vulnerabilities or bug in the MCP protocol and implementation themselves, attacker can leverage those vulnerability or leverage those bugs, try to exploit them, try to do malicious things. The third risk the attack surface is also very important, is what we call environment injection. Because the agent access environment through MCP, and the environment is typically like public, anyone can access that. So attacker can inject certain malicious instructions or certain malicious behaviors into the environment, such that whenever the agent interact with the environment through MCPs, the agent may read those instructions and then to execute the corresponding malicious task. So those are the three top important or unique risks introduced by MCP, but previously blind to enterprise. And then, as I mentioned, MCP guard provides protection against attack surface 1 and 2. Attack surface 3 is what Action Guard provides. Basically, during the runtime, we'll look at every tool call, every action of the agent, try to find out if there are vulnerabilities or if there are malicious ones.
Yeah, I can imagine that that provides
Mhm.
incredible peace of mind for users as well. I mean, that type of end-to-end coverage where, if you had zero agent security before, you really are
Mhm.
covered end to end. Sammy, let's talk implementation. How flexible is Agent Suite in practice? Can enterprises apply their own policies and controls? What does a typical rollout look like? I'm sure a lot of security postures are certainly very mature and they want to add this new capability. How does that, get implemented?
Yeah, thanks, Ref. So Agent Suite was designed from the ground up to make it highly flexible for enterprises to deploy. And we've done this and built the system this way because we've learned from working with our customers over time and looking at what they actually want to build and deploy, that a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work or hasn't worked so far for agent security. So what this includes for us includes a lot of flexibility and policy customization. This has been a huge hit with many enterprises who want to be able to define policies that match their use cases at multiple levels of granularity. And we provide technology that makes it easy to adapt the implementation and deployment of the system to match the way that they do their work and the way that they're deploying AI systems. We built the infrastructure such that you can have policies, say at the framework level, which kinds of frameworks are permitted, OpenAI, Cloud Agents, MCP. MCP level policies, as we've already discussed, two level policies, which tools agents can invoke, under what conditions, what parameters, permissions. Action level, which actions are permitted, which kinds of data, so data level that agents can access, and other kinds of sensitivity and classifications to allow, again, these kinds of adaptive use cases. We allow the policies to be expressed programmatically. So you can do this just in text by uploading policies. You can import existing asset control, compliance requirements, risk frameworks, and we automatically convert these into the policies that the agent suite is designed to control. And we then enforce these policies in real time across all agents and MCP servers and the rest of your infrastructure. A lot of this can be done very quickly. So an example, just hypothetical deployment. We have customers that have been able to deploy Agent Suite, order days all the way to customers that like to spend a little bit of time starting off, say, with discovery and assessment to understand exactly where the risks are. So there we're working, building some of the discovery tools, the MCP server, scanning tool usage patterns. Uh, the MCP guard helps them understand the MCP base security risk profile. And then they might go to a policy definition and testing. So there they're looking at their organizational policies and how well they match the risk that they've defined and discovered. They can deploy Action Guard, but maybe just to monitor, test policies against production traffic and tune false positive rates and the rest of the infrastructure, and maybe refine the policies based on the observations. And then start deployment very quickly after that. So enable real-time blocking for high risk actions. Can roll out at the pace that makes sense for that business deployment across the populations of agents and their users and the rest of their either internal or external employees or external users. And again, this can be done quite quickly, and we've had customers that have been successfully able to uh, get the system up and running very quickly, but also can be deployed with a lot of customization at the pace that makes sense for the business use case. So again, they can understand better what their current risk profile is, tune the policies as appropriate, and then deploy at scale across the customer base.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned so many amazing, like novel, unique aspects of Agent Suite, but one thing that I do want to really point out is the one-click integration with the Unified Agent Gateway. What does that mean operationally for a team that already has agents in production, and why is this kind of a breakthrough when it comes to securing agents?
Yeah, so we've heard from our customers that this is again one of their the features that they appreciate the most because we believe it provides a massive operational leverage for many teams and many use cases. So in a traditional setting, traditional security, and even other ways that one might think about implementing and deploying agent security, you have to instrument every agent individually, modify agent code to add security hooks, maintain integrations as the frameworks evolve. Again, lots of overhead, lots of deployment friction and maintenance burden. Our gateway approach The unified gateway can sit between your agents and MCP if you choose to deploy it this way as a single enforcement point. And again, this is really designed to be one click and as seamless and sort of painless as possible. So teams can use standard frameworks. They deploy the gateway as a proxy, point your agents to the gateway URL instead of directly to MCP endpoints, and that's it. There's no other change that any of the teams or any of the agent deployments have to do. Just point to a different proxy, and the agent will automatically intercept tool calls, scan MCPs, everything that we discussed already, enforce policies. So what this means is no code changes, no changes to existing agents in most use cases. Instant visibility, they can see immediately what's happening across the whole system. Consistent enforcement, regardless of the agent framework. So they can do this, again, as mentioned, with lots of infrastructure types. So LangChain, OpenAI, agent frameworks, Claude, various kinds of custom frameworks. And also, I think importantly, centralized management and auditing and observability and security policies across even quite wide and complex agent fleets. So it makes, for many deployments and use cases, just so much more seamless, so much less painful than other kinds of deployments can be. And the gateway handles and lots of the things that you need to do to get scalable working systems. So authentication, scanning, policy enforcement, logging, all of that is done transparently to the agent.
Yeah, and then if I'm an organization, watching this and I'm thinking to myself, well, I already have my own gateway. I already have my own orchestration layers. How does AgentSuite integrate with that without forcing a rebuild?
Indeed. So as mentioned, I already talked a bit about how customizability is important because different enterprises are deploying agents in very different ways. And so to your point, there are versions of deployment settings where there's an existing gateway. And so we're plugging into something that already exists. We've seen roughly three kinds of integration patterns that can work. One is agent gateway to gateway. So you have an existing gateway. You call the AgentSuite API for any security decision. So you're taking the components, the security components, but you're plugging them into your existing stack. The AgentSuite will allow you to allow or block any kinds of policy violations that show up, allow you to enforce those policies based on recommendations that AgentSuite has, and maintain a full audit trail in our AgentSuite dashboard, again, tied to your existing gateway. Another option is something that looks a little bit like a SDK embedding. So we provide hooks into things like code and other parts of your agent deployment infrastructure. And so you can call AgentSuite security functions directly from, say, your gateway code or your agent code and other parts of your existing orchestration. So this is close to the direct integration with your orchestration logic. Again, because we've built these tools to be so special purpose ourselves, we can give you very high performance, low latency, and full control, even in this kind of deployment. And then a third version that we started to see a bit is some kind of sidecar pattern. So you deploy the agent suite alongside your agents. Agents will make local calls to the sidecar for security checks as they're taking various actions. This can work well, say, in a Kubernetes environment, and it's nice because it can scale independently from, say, the workload the agents is deploying. So again, tons of flexibility because we've seen different orchestration styles for various kinds of deployments. But really, our philosophy is to meet enterprises where they are and avoid forcing some kind of rip and replace. So we want security to be easy to deploy, composable, adaptable to the use cases and deployments that enterprises are using.
Yes, exactly. No rip and replace here. Bo, it's funny. Sanmi mentioned high performance, low latency, full control. What about compliance? AgentSuite does provide deep observability, audit logging. From a CISO or compliance perspective, what new visibility does this unlock if it's time if it's time for audit or investigation here?
Great question. Yeah, indeed, I think compliance itself would be part of the agent controllability and management as well, as Sammy mentioned, because actually, to me, I find that for agent and GenAI whole AI systems, like security, governance, observability, compliance, these things are all together. You cannot separate them. it's very hard to have different vendors focus on just one of them because they are together. For example, when the agent make a trajectory of actions, you need to protect the security of them. And in the meantime, you need to govern them. Like each action need to be correct in terms of which tool this role should be accessed, which data source this role is allowed to access, for example, right? And then coming to the observability as well. Like say if during the run, as we mentioned, for Action Guard, for example, if they identify some actions are, suspicious or blocked, alerted, you should tell the whole transparency to the team, like say the CISO team, the AI lead team, the product team, so we can look back what happened for this, agents so that either you can fix it, you can, do something later on, keep record for compliance purpose, as you mentioned. Therefore, this has to be whole thing together in a unified platform such as AgentSuite so that you can have an end-to-end like observability and protection. So concretely, with that being said, for Agent Suite itself for observability, first of all, for every like functionality or security functionality we have on AgentSuite will provide you a report. For example, as Wenbo mentioned, MCP guard. After scan all MCPs periodically, whenever say this MCP server get updated, etc., you can download automatically a PDF report about the vulnerabilities found in the past, what has been, found, what has been solved or not, their severity levels, analysis, full content. And similarly for Action Guard, periodically you can also download a report showing what actions has been, alerted, what part of the policies and also what ratio of the policy, security rules and like statistics, etc., has been violated, and in what types of use cases and environment, so that you can have all this summary in one PDF report as well for your compliance and auditing purpose. And similarly for others like access control and all the things. So we log all our, security protection, observability, and protection result in terms of their statistics, their violation, portion of rules, and also over time what has changed. For example, last month, which policy has been violated the most? How about this month, right? What happens between it? So I would say this full observability at AgentSuite is not only the traditional observability in terms of latency, token use, which model you call, who called what. Of course, we have all this as well, but also we provide the security and the governance level of compliance and observability in terms of what has going wrong before and has it become better, and what we observe as a trend and as a whole, for example, CISO team or AI lead team, should there be some strategy or action next planned for the next, secure and trustworthy agent. So I think this provides the whole information so that the team and the corporation can plan accordingly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so interesting because the methodology here is so indicative of the fact that we are, a team of researchers here. You've kind of thought of everything. Sanmi, when it comes to that research-driven security, can you point to some research insights specifically that shaped how Agent Suite was built, whether it comes from testing, governance, or anything like that?
Sure. So as we're discussing, and we've maybe highlighted across the way, Agent Suite and a lot of the work the Virtue AI does is a translation of cutting edge research into deployable enterprise-ready capabilities. I'll talk through maybe a couple of this research to product connection. So some early work from our team includes work on how agents can be compromised and language models and AI models can be compromised through malicious content and retrieved data, so often called prompt injection. A lot of the work and the key insights that we found included that the vulnerability wasn't just the model, but the whole infrastructure of retrieval augmented generation and the rest of the infrastructure around the model. So the model has a risk, but because of the ways these systems are built, you end up with these kinds of gaps seeping through any kind of broad agentic deployment. So an operationalization of this includes, for instance, MCP Guard that specifically scans MCP tools for descriptions and schemas for potential embedded injection vectors, or Action Guard that analyzes the full context chain, not just the tool call. So this is understanding that some of the gaps show up not as, again, one-step issues, but really issues that can synthesize over multiple steps. And so we understand what tool is selected and what data influenced the decision that the agent is taking. This allows us to guard against much more subtle and complicated attacks. Specialized detection methods that we've built, including award-winning work to understand potential semantic manipulation patterns in long context and other deployments of AI tools. Another line of work is work engaging in agent-specific attack surfaces. So we've done a bunch of research over the years. Again, most recently, specifically looking at agentic attack surfaces and how those differ from traditional AI attacks. So tool poisoning attacks that compromise agent infrastructure, multi-turn manipulation, as we've been discussing, other kinds of environment injection attacks. And this has been built into tooling like VirtueRed for agents that implements a wide variety, over 100 proprietary attack strategies derived directly from our research and the broad research of the community. Test agents across lots of sandbox environments to replicate real enterprise tooling, real enterprise deployments, and over 1,000 risk categories that are curated from agent security research and use cases that have been reported to us from our customers in real deployments. And finally, invested a ton in specialized security models that outperform general purpose models. So again, there's a lot of excitement about, say, using general purpose AI models because they're good at many things. Can they just solve the security problem? Of course, they can be effective in parts of the system, but we've demonstrated in both research work, but also in specialized work that we've built into the products, that small purpose-built models can outperform much, much larger models, including enterprise-grade LLMs for security-specific tasks while being hugely faster. So this really unblocks deployments that are latency sensitive, deployments that are complex, that have lots of moving pieces, because the security is no longer sort of latency bottleneck to large scale deployment. So our AgentSuite uses a bunch of these specialized lightweight models for code vulnerability scanning, semantic policy validation, context channel analysis. We've shown that we can do this, and we've shown examples and comparisons in sub 10 millisecond latency for real-time guardrails for production deployments. And these are deployed at scale across lots of our customers, processing millions and millions of interactions with models and with agents every day. And we can run comprehensive security analysis without the cost and latency of calling frontier models. So broadly, our philosophy has been, and some of what I think was made this kind of work successful is engaging in understanding the feedback loop between research and product. Our team is very active and at the frontier of AI systems and AI security research. We publish at all the top conferences. And exposure to the community has kept us ahead of emerging threats, emerging technology, new attack vectors. Often we're the ones discovering these kinds of new attacks and educating the broad community. And this allows us a head start in translating these into AgentSuite updates and AgentSuite technology and blocking new kinds of security threats. And we believe this provides a unique advantage to enterprises who can take advantage of, again, this new world of new kinds of security threat models, where they can get the advantage of our very quick research to product pipeline. So new security measures that at the cutting edge of research will show up in our products within very short timelines, much, much quicker than they hit, say, mainstream security awareness, which can take several months. And we think this are some of the unique advantages of our AgentSuite platform.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned, the sheer brain power in this organization is so impressive and definitely goes right into the product, including those proprietary lightweight models that, yeah, high performance, low latency. You mentioned specifically Virtue Red for agents, which as a marketer, I must follow up because Virtue Red for agents is used by a little company called Salesforce. It's one of our customers. So tell me a little bit more about that Salesforce deployment because, that's a tremendously large deployment. It's a deployment at scale. How does AgentSuite handle something like that when you're, helping secure the agents for one of the largest companies in the world?
Yeah, so Salesforce famously has really invested in agent deployments and are using agents across multiple business units and customer-facing applications, internal workflows. And of course, once you have agent deployment at this scale and this complexity, all of the security issues that we've been discussing over the course of this webinar, I think really the risk profile and the threat surface really blows up. And as already as we've discussed, traditional approaches to security really break down at this scale. So you can't manually review agent behavior. You can't afford high latency to degrade user experience. Hiring a security team to manually tune policies for every agent type starts to break down. And so for us, I think we've been able to help them understand gaps and get great observability into the risk profile of agentic deployments via Virtue Red for agents. So again, we can build these silos that simulate real world deployments and capture a broad variety of the potential risk surface to capture all of the ways that failure modes security risk can show up at scale. Again, we built our system to be highly scalable, to scale horizontally across multiple regions, multiple time zones, capture, again, various kinds of potential interactions, various kinds of potential use cases and user types. And we can allow them to build intelligent policy management. So adaptive policy management for different kinds of agents used for different kinds of use cases. We've already talked about adaptability of policy templates. So the ease of having policies that can manage, again, different types of use cases beyond a single one. For companies like Salesforce who are deploying complex agents with multiple kinds of use cases, this kind of adaptability really plays a key role and matters a ton for successful deployment. So this is the kind of an example of, again, a successful use case, successful deployment of parts of AgentSuite. It allows agents to scale to enterprise scale without performance degradation, gives you observability into the risk surface of your agent deployments, gives you the opportunity for flexibly employing and deploying and enforcing policies. Again, strict for customer-facing agents, permissive for internal tools. All of these easily turnkey deployable at scale for enterprises. Continuous red teaming to capture vulnerabilities and all kinds of issues that could show up in systems. Making the ROI, I think, quite clear, where we're preventing high-profile security incidents. So very easily paying for itself many times over once deployed.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to get into the demo. So I might just jump right in there in a second. But Bo, I just have one more question before we give it over to Wenbo for the demo. Sammy may have touched on this, but specifically, let's talk about kind of what breaks when agents scale. When it comes to agents, multi-agents, when enterprises start running, hundreds or thousands of agents, what's the common operational mistake that you see early on that maybe we can catch for them before it's too late?
Yeah, great question. Indeed, from several customers, we heard real-world stories such as in a single organization, they need to deploy different agents. For example, like ServiceNow agent, Atlassian, and then Databricks, and also like a cloud and different and homegrown agent as well. With all this, as you can see, it could be messy in terms of agent frameworks, agent communications, agent tool calls, different environment interactions. So you have to have the full, as we said, the whole security protection, governance, and controllability together to protect this very complex environment. Therefore, as Sanmi mentioned, like in Salesforce, we help with this multi-agent red teaming risk assessment. And similarly, from the real-world deployment perspective, like a multi-agent, we help some others protect their multi-agent systems through the red teaming risk assessment all the way to the protection, management, and governance and the controllability observability. So from provides a life cycle, like end-to-end for the agent life cycle. So with that being said, one key thing I want to mention is that for the agent red, basically we actually, as Sammy mentioned, we built this whole sandbox, including all this environment already, right? Like Databricks, Snowflakes, like ServiceNow, Gmail, Calendar. So you can actually do all kinds of manipulations in this environment and provide the realistic risk assessment with a real-world high-fidelity environment. So that itself, as far as I know, is first kind, and we'll also release a research paper on that to allow everyone to use such environment to do their own little attacks and exploration as well, which is very exciting to me.
That's amazing. Oh, I can't wait to see that paper. That's fantastic news. With this, I will hand it over to Wenbo for the demo. So Wenbo, why don't you share your screen? And enough talking about AgentSuite. Let's see it in practice.
Okay, cool. Let's get to the exciting and the fun part. First, I just want to quickly show the platform of AgentSuite. You can see, as we always discussing throughout the webinar, we integrate a lot of capabilities, including code guard, prompt guard, MCP guard, action guard, access control, and the observability of the whole trajectory. For the sake of time, here I will mini demo two capabilities. One is our code guard, another is action guard through code work. First, let's get to the code guard part. To integrate, basically, as we always, as kind of the goal of virtual AI is I want to make the integration as simple as possible. So here, code guard integration is very straightforward. It's a plugin into popular IDEs. Here, I'm using VS Code, but it also can be integrated into Cursor, Windsurf. Even if you don't use IDE, you use command line, it can be integrated into Cloud Code. The high level idea of code guard is like every time AI writes certain code, our coder will jump in, scan all the code generated by AI or any code assistant, try to fly out if there are vulnerabilities. Because we know like recent days that AI are very powerful in terms of writing code, but still there are kind of like vulnerability can happen of the AI written code. We do have some research paper on that regard as well. And here, basically, I already installed the CodeGuard plugin into my IDE. Once it's been installed, we just need to set it, basically, type in the backend URL or API key, which can be generated from our dashboard. And then we can select different models. Here we provide different choices. This is the model like we train like our homegrown model. It's a small model. Later I will show you it's super fast compared to other commercial models. But once it's been configured, here's a demo code with like four individual functions and one main function that calls those four individual functions. First, let's try to scan all these individual functions to see if they have vulnerabilities. The way to scan it is just you scan, you select the code, and then you just click analyze with our code guard. You can say it's actually super fast, like probably less than 1 or 2 seconds, you can get the results. This function is vulnerable because it uses this evil function, potentially have a command injection. And then if you click detail, it will show you the explanation why our model thinks it's vulnerable and a quick introduction or a quick suggestion of how to fix it. And then let's try to scan some other functions. For the sake of time, I will scan these three functions together. Here, one thing to mention is that here I'm using the manual mode. We also provide automatic mode is whenever a function is written into a file, we can automatically scan it. So we also support that. Here you can see these three functions are all benign because there's like basically no clear malicious instructions or malicious behavior happening, just about like formal result, read, and save results. So we can say like from these 4 individual functions, one is malicious, 3 of them are benign. Now let's look at the main function, which call this like 4 functions. At high level, if you scan over the code, the main function doesn't really have any obvious like malicious instructions being used. But when we scan it, let's see what happened. You can see our model still flagging out as CWE19.5, which was the exact same vulnerability that happens in this like pass user script function. The reason why our model flags the main function as vulnerable because you can see here it calls like pass user script. So this is very important in the sense when we do all this like vulnerability detection, we not only look at the current function, we will look at important context. In this case, it's the calling of the current main function. The main function calls this like pass user script in line 103, and since this pass user script is vulnerable, and then the main function will have the same vulnerability as this pass user script function. So basically showing like our whole approach is backed by our purpose trained small model, which is super fast. We also build a very lightweight agent around it such that our whole detection system can read the context and then try to make decision based on the context, not only the current function. This reduces the false positive and the false negative by a lot. So now let me, to demonstrate that, let me switch to another model. Instead of using our model, let's try to use an existing model, for example, let's say Cloud4 Sonnet, which is also a very strong coding model. As we know, like Cloud is very strong at doing coding tasks. Let's scan this function one more time. First, you can say it takes much longer time to give us results by using Cloud model. Because the model is like very large compared to our model. It gave us a different CW number. It's 94, but 94 and 95, they are like similar things. They all point to the same command injection. So this is kind of acceptable in terms of result. But you can tell from latency wise, our model is way faster than Cloud model. Now let's select these 3 functions and analyze this once more. Here we expect it probably take a longer time because now you need to analyze 3 functions instead of just one single function. As you can see here, the Cloud gave us actually a false positive. It tells us this kind of CW22, but as we know, these 3 functions are actually benign, not vulnerable. So that's why we really need this purpose-built model because like when we try to understand security principle, try to understand security vulnerabilities, we really need this purpose-built specialized model versus a general purpose model, which may now specifically trained or may not be very good at understand code, understand security principle or security vulnerabilities. And then let's try to analyze the main function with the Cloud model again and see what happened. You can see again, the querying time is way longer compared to our model. It takes much longer time because now it needs to analyze not only this function, but also other functions. So you can say our agentic capability also can propagate for the Cloud model as well. In this case, the model is able to flag out there's a 19.4 speed up E, and the reason is the same because it uses pass user script function. So basically, this quick demo shows that our model is way faster than existing proprietary or general purpose model, and it can reduce the false positive by a lot as a demo. And the agent we build around the model can be generalized, can enable the model read context, reduce false positive, false negative. It can be integrated into our model and other models as well. So that's how we can enable both the latency, efficiency, and also effectiveness of the whole code scanning. Here, when we go back to our dashboard, it's also very important to show and demo to have the full observability of the results. So that's why we build this dashboard to show the comprehensive result of all the scannings. As you can see from timestamp, these are all the scanning I did. Once we click into one of it will show you what code is being evaluated and detailed explanation of why it is vulnerable or it is benign. It will also shows you what model is being used. This one is using Sonnet Cloud4, and then the previous one I scanned, this one used like our model. One last time, I still want to emphasize, you can see this is the comparison of latency of our model versus the cloud model. You can see our model at least 3 times faster compared to the cloud model. Okay. Oh, sorry, probably go over time, but I do want to quickly demo the co-work scenario of ActionGuard. Here we build our ActionGuard as a plugin into co-work. And then I already let the co-work to list out all the folder on desktop. And there's a folder called customer DB where I save certain information about like we mimic this kind of like a database of a certain customer. Now let's say if we ask the co-work to delete this folder for us, what happens? So basically, whenever the co-work execute any action, before it executed, it will the action or instruction will be passed through our action guard in real time, and our action guard will evaluate it and try to say if it's Wenbo or not. Okay, so you can say after probably less than a second thought, it already tells that, oh, I'm unable to delete this customer DB because action guard security system block it. And then if you go back to the dashboard on the monitor, we'll also be able to say this monitor's action is being blocked based on the timestamp. Click into detail, it shows you why it's being blocked, what policy is violated. In this case, it violates the OAuth top 10 policy. We also support many other policies as shown here, and also the customized policy here as well. With that, I will hand back to Raf. That's marked the end of the demo.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wenbo. Really, obviously it's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to AgentSuite. There's so much amazing functionality. I highly encourage anyone to go over to our website, virtuai.com, smash that book a demo button, and you can get a personalized demo for yourself. We are slightly over time, but I think a fun way to end here is maybe we can go around the room and very briefly say, if there was one thing you'd want someone to take away from this conversation, what would it be? Sanmi, why don't you start?
Sure. Now, again, hopefully, we've been able to give a flavor of what, this rich software that we're building around Agent Suite. Maybe for some takeaways, I'll mention, I think it's very clear as an industry, as a broad enterprise, we're at a clear inflection point in the development and deployment of agents. And many are moving from proof of concept to mission critical enterprise systems. In this move, there'll be, again, lots more access to customer interactions, financial transactions, supply chains, automating internal workflows. The more this happens, the more important security can become a huge advantage for enterprises, unblocking new kinds of use cases and more ambitious deployments for AI systems writ large. To get security right, you would need for many enterprises to understand that agents are different from classic security infrastructure or classic computing infrastructure and need new security tools. Invest in understanding and testing before deployment and implement new kinds of security controls. Again, all of this can be done, and there's an incredible opportunity to do all these at scale without blocking the potential use cases and the new kinds of deployments that many enterprises are seeking. So again, summarize, agentic AI provides, I think, an interesting and exciting new opportunity, but only if we can build these kinds of systems in a secure way. And we built AgentSuite as infrastructure to make this easy for enterprises. And we've demoed parts of what we can do with AgentSuite. But we really believe that AgentSuite can make it easy for enterprises to get unblock the agentic deployments and make sure that these kinds of transformations that they're building towards happen securely, responsibly, and successfully. And so, don't wait for a security incident. Let's get started in building with you and your new agentic infrastructure.
Fantastic. Don't wait for a security incident. That's great advice. Bo, why don't you give your kind of brief takeaway here?
Okay, so I think two tendencies. First of all, everyone is building agent, of course, and I always worry you don't know like which is larger, the value that the agent bring or the potential cost it could cause because of the lack of security and trust layer. Therefore, we need to have trust layer and security layer for agent in day one rather than after you deploy. Otherwise, potentially you could need to redesign your system to incorporate all these, security functionalities and toolings. Therefore, for example, I use Cowork and I definitely use AgentSuite. Otherwise, it's like I cannot sleep. So hopefully everyone can have their security and trust layer in day one for their agent building.
Absolutely. Yeah, don't want to lose sleep. Wenbo, why don't you close us out here?
Yeah, sure. I think Bo and Sammy already cover a lot. I just have one more thing to emphasize. Like protecting agent requires end-to-end solution. Attacker only need to find one spot to break into your system. That's why we build AgentSuite, the one and only end-to-end protection mechanism for agent.
Fantastic. And of course,
Mhm.
my takeaway is the marketing stuff. Head to our website, virtuai.com, book a demo, hear from our team. We are a incredible group of really smart folks that you'd love to talk to about securing your AI agents, chatbots, models. We do it all. So thank you so much for your time, everyone, and have a fabulous day.